37%. It's
Were you able to press start broadcast, Mary?
I did. It went through and now it says stop broadcast.
Oh no, okay, we're live. Awesome. Okay, yes, we are good. We're live. All right, so hey everybody, we have Mary Owusu on, and she is going to be talking about how I survived converting my in-person course to online. My name is Bailey Dudley. I am the CSM, Customer Success Manager here at Stu Kent. So I help people get their courses up and ready to go. So we would love for you to use your chat so that you can ask questions. You're going to see that up on your upper right-hand corner of your screen. So chat away, ask questions. We will save those questions till the end, but you are welcome to ask questions at any time. Do be active on Twitter. Use hashtag ProfCon20. The person who engages the most on Twitter will receive a $5 Starbucks gift card. So just a little background on Mary. Mary is Vice President of Digital Marketing and Analytics at Mauer, a full-service marketing PR and advertising agency. Her client list includes Ford, Mattel, Radisson Hotel, and Siemens. She is also a professor at the Richard J. Whaley School of Business at Canisius College, where she teaches digital marketing to undergrad and MBA students. Mary is a recipient of the 40 Under 40 Emerging Leaders Award from the American Marketing Association, a top 3 finalist for the Top Analytics Practitioner Award from Digital Marketing Analytics Association, and has received the Athena Young Professional Award for her commitment to advancing women and her community. So we'll turn the time over to Mary and have fun, guys.
Well, hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you, Bailey. I am beyond excited to talk to you today about how I survived converting my course to online. So here's the thing. There's a little bit of a delay in terms of my bio that Bailey just read to you. I actually have left corporate America, and I'm now a full-time professor at Canisius College. I made a big jump in my career, and I'll tell you about it, and because it really does play a role in how I ended up surviving this last semester. So by way of background, as I said, I'm an assistant professor at Canisius College, and I'm also the director of the college's Integrated Marketing Communications Center, which we're building to make sure that students really get a hands-on experience while they're on campus. The reason why I left my corporate job after 18 years as an executive digital marketing and analytics exec was because of several reasons, but one of the key drivers was the fact that I was an adjunct for Canisius and had helped create like between 4 and 5 different digital marketing courses. And I just wanted to be all in and really see these students through. Not only that, the college is an incredible college in terms of being a supportive community. And I also wanted more flexibility in my schedule. You know, I have young kids, and I'm sure some of you can relate to some of the reasons why sometimes you have to make a career move. So I did. I went from being a senior vice president of digital strategy and analytics at Mauer to now being their senior advisor with that same distinction. So what I'm doing is I'm consulting for them. They can call me, and they do call me when we need to present or do different client or be in front of different client opportunities where they really want my brain in the room. So I've been able to transition well from that position. Because of my deep experience in analytics, I also actually found myself joining the board of the Digital Analytics Association. And there I'm actually on the executive board. I'm the board secretary. And when I left corporate America, I thought I was going to slow down, but I didn't. Like I said, I'm consulting with my old agency, but I'm also my own founder and CEO. And I have a business where I teach businesses how to do their own digital marketing. That's what I always wanted to do, even when I was in corporate America. And that's what drove me to continue to to be in academia, even though I was carrying a full-time job, because I was really drawn to the teaching aspect, the transferring of information, the transferring of knowledge to other people. And no matter what situation I was in at work, I found myself doing a lot of relationship building with the person across the table from me. And even in my adjunct role at Canisius, I was doing that with my students, really connecting with them and helping them create, really get more out of the courses than just taking notes and regurgitating whatever the textbook said. So teaching was always a part of was a part of my blood, you know. So with GuruBound, what I'm doing is teaching entrepreneurs how to do their own digital marketing. And also I have a passion for digital marketing professors. And so every once in a while I share tips about how professors can effectively teach engaging courses online, because that's all I did was teach online while I had my corporate job. I had to. So I have learned a lot along the way. I have the scrapes and the scars to prove it. And I love to share my tips. So if anything I say today resonates with you, I encourage you to connect with me on gurubound.com. My email address is down in the footer as well. And the slides that I'm presenting to you today are also on gurubound.com. So go and grab them, as opposed to trying to take all these notes while we're together today. Grab the slides and follow along that way so that we can have a good conversation. So I told you why I took that big leap in my career. Here's the other reason. I was interviewing a lot, you know, getting a lot of students come trying to get jobs as marketing, in the marketing career. You know, I'm sitting across from them during the interviews, and I was spotting a trend that I wasn't really impressed by as a practitioner. You know, I was seeing a lack of relevant digital marketing coursework that they were taking in their actual college curriculum. So they didn't have anything to back up the fact that they understood digital marketing, even though they might have taken some marketing courses, or even though they might have been marketing majors. I also was seeing that even if they were taking those courses, they were not getting the applied experience. So they couldn't explain how to do digital marketing. They could just explain that they took a course about social media marketing or about what have you. And thank God for companies like Stu Kent that have simulations and other ways for students to really get hands-on, because that is really missing. And I can tell you from a practitioner's perspective that that truly is a missing piece. And then the lack of diversity. You know, we need people of all different backgrounds and all different educational levels and all different experiences to come into the field of digital marketing, because that's what creates, that's what gets us away from homogenous thinking. That's what gets us away to solving problems in new ways. And so I just was seeing overall a lack of career readiness among the people that were interviewing with me, and a lack of life readiness. And I just thought it was time to change that. So I just spilled to you what my secret mission is. You know, here I am, a professor and an entrepreneur, but at the same time, you know, what really drives me is that I want to increase diversity and inclusion in the field of digital marketing. And I know I can do that through teaching. I know I can do that through my consulting work. And I just feel like that's the way to make the world better. And the map that you see on the screen is because I'm an immigrant. I came from Ghana in 1992 with my family. And ever since being in America, I've just been called to do something bigger, something that really reaches more people than just whoever is in my inner circle. So that's my background and what drives me to keep doing what I am doing. And it's working so far. Even while I was an adjunct and now as a full-time professor, I'm proud to say that I've helped to create actual career digital marketers. And many of them are working in different areas of digital marketing and doing a great job at it. And I have to tell you, the other thing I'm really proud of is some students that have taken my courses have actually switched their majors from maybe finance or something else to marketing, which I secretly love, because marketing is the best. It's an awesome career. And I just love when students' eyes are opened through applied learning to what marketing is all about. And so here is how my semester started. Okay, so I've just told you I do digital marketing, have been doing it for years. I was teaching online. I've been doing that for years. But then when this pandemic happened, I had already transitioned to Canisius full-time as a full-time professor. And at that point, I was teaching 3 courses. 2 of them were search marketing where I was teaching SEO and paid search. And I was doing that on GuruBound, where I sometimes run my whole course because sometimes it's easier than using the college LMS. And then I had this principles of marketing class that was synchronous. It was in person. It was your typical class. And I was using the Stu Kent principles of marketing, or modern marketing principles rather, that course textbook by Kinda Wilson. And it's a great textbook. It was fully online. It had all the cases. It had all the, a bunch of different assignments for the students to use. But what we really loved, what me and the students really loved, was the one-on-one engagement and the in-person engagement that we were having in the classroom. So that's how my semester started. It was a really, really great. And then the pandemic happened and I kind of panicked initially. And even me, like, I just kind of took all my, I started recording my lectures that I would have done in person and created all these videos and put them on the LMS. And I literally took my slides for every chapter and started recording slide by slide what I wanted my students to learn. I was trying to replicate what we were doing in class before the pandemic. And I had no engagement with that course material, with the lectures I was recording. But by the end of the semester, I had turned my class into what you're seeing on your screen here. These Marketing 201 or Principles of Marketing students were highly engaged and they had great reviews, and they still were able to connect with each other even though we were separated physically. So I want to tell you what I did so that hopefully some of this can inspire some of the work that you do in the fall semester. Again, everything I'm talking about here and my slides are all available right on my site. So go and grab it so that you don't have to take copious notes. Just go to gurubound.com and grab the slides. All right, so how do you transition an in-person class into an engaging, interactive online course? What I'm going to teach you and what I'm going to share with you are the four keys that I have embraced over the years of teaching. I started teaching in 2012. I was not good at first. Yeah.
I hate to interrupt you. I'm so sorry, but your slides aren't moving forward. Can you try and refresh your screen?
No. Okay. I can.
Okay, it might log you out, so you'll just have to come right back in.
All right, let's try it again.
There we go.
Is it any better?
Yes. Yep, it's back.
Hallelujah. Thank you for saying something. I appreciate whoever mentioned that. But you could still hear me, right? The whole time?
Good.
Okay.
Yeah.
At least you didn't lose the audio, because I'm very excited to tell you about what I did. All right. So how do you transition an online course into an interactive, or an in-person course into an engaging, interactive online class? What I want to show you all is, if I can just go back a couple slides, that I don't know if you saw this particular slide, but this is the slide where I was saying by the last week of the semester, the students were beyond highly engaged. And these are the kinds of, you can see on their faces and with all the different graphics, what we were doing in class, even though we were physically separated. So I definitely wanted you to be able to see this visual. All right, so here are the 4 keys that I have embraced over my years of teaching. Started teaching in 2012 and I was not perfect at first. And I'm still not perfect at teaching online, but I'm learning some things that work really well. And so here are the 4 things that I always keep in mind. And this is what drives me to have effective and engaging online classrooms. So the first is a commitment to a mastery mindset. I'll show you exactly what I mean by that. But at the end of the day, it starts with you committing to the fact that you are going to do more than just teach. You're going to help your students master the material. That's where it starts. The second is to simplify the tech. I don't want you to become overwhelmed with the tech, and I don't want to be overwhelmed with the tech. I don't want my students to be overwhelmed with the tech. So I'll teach you how I simplify the tech. And then the third is engage with powerful interactivity. I'll tell you what I mean by that. And then the fourth is to be actively present, to actually be visible to your students. So without further ado, let's take these one by one and talk first about a commitment to a mastery mindset. Here's the first thing. Before you go to develop an online course, it's really important to realize and to tell yourself that your online course is not your in-person course repackaged for online consumption. It can't be. It will never work. You have to think backwards about the outcomes you want to create for your students, what you want them to actually be able to do by the time they finish your course, and then back into what you can do for them with this new physical, with the new physical restraints that we have, with the fact that you're not going to be synchronous, with the fact that you are going to have to be online. All of these things, by definition, demand that you have to create something new and different. So that's the first thing. You have to step away from what you've been doing, or be willing to. Then the next thing that is involved with this mastery mindset is to think about, I'm sure you're all familiar with Bloom's taxonomy. So Bloom's taxonomy tells us that the way that we learn, that we always start with the lowest denominator. We start by recalling facts and recalling basic concepts. But to really absorb the information and to really become someone who has mastered something or learned in such a way that I feel engaged and I feel like my mind has been open to something new, I need to apply that material. And I need to go beyond applying that material to ultimately even producing original work. So what I mean by that, the way that it translates to me, and I think it can help you as well, is that my mindset going into any online course creation is at the bottom there where it says study. What do I want my students to know by the time they finish the course? That's not my standard. That's my floor. I start with the ceiling on the floor. So my ceiling is, what do I want my students to be able to do with what they know by the time they finish my course? That is for a lot of people, that's the ceiling. But for me, that's my starting point. So that's the mindset you've got to have. One, my online course is not the same as my in-person course. And two, I want my students to be able to actually apply what they're learning to actually do something with it. Okay, so that's the first mindset. So if you're with me on that, then everything else that I'm going to teach you about the remaining three keys should just flow right in. So let's talk about simplifying the tech. You know this, I'm sure others have mentioned it or you've read about it, because when COVID happened, everybody was talking about the fact that we all need to stop being overwhelmed by the tech, because students may not have access to the resources that we're assuming that they have access to, like consistent Wi-Fi or a home computer, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, or even the time to be able to sit and read through hours and hours of our lectures. Right, so we've got to simplify the tech because it's the right thing to do for the students, but also it's the same thing to do for us and for our students. When your tech is simple, you can teach them what you really want to teach them, as opposed to being bogged down with the technology. So when I say simplify the tech, my starting point is, what can I do within the confines of the institution's LMS? That's my starting point. How do I make it so that students can get all the information that they need by just logging into the LMS? So that's my starting point. And so what I did this past semester was I created all my units, and I had about 4 units left to go, 4 chapters or 4 or 5 chapters left to go when the semester was called off. And when the students logged in, they could see clearly chapter 11. It said advertising and promotion, or whatever the name of the chapter is. So I'm telling you what to do. Be really clear with your students. So they log in, they see exactly what the lesson is that you're assigning, and the due date. The due date needs to be very, very obvious to them. I even actually put the due date in the actual title of the lesson so that it's even more prominent. And then within that, I defined individual work and then some group work. So here's how I did it. So right in the LMS, when they logged in, they could see individual work, and they could see that they had to read a certain chapter and that they had to then complete a quiz. And luckily, like I said, my course textbook was already online because I was using the Modern Principles of Marketing by Kinda Wilson at Stu-Kent. So they just had to go and read it, and then they had to go and then take the quiz, which was also on Stu-Kent. So that was that was business as usual for my students. And that's, for me, that is sort of the remember stage. Those things are always a part of every lesson. I always have almost like a consistent lesson that they always do every week. So they get used to it. So every week they have a chapter and then they have a quiz and they're used to that. For me, that is the lowest level of learning that I want them to have. I want them to read the textbook and I want them to take the quiz every time. Then I start to apply at least one assignment that focuses on those next 2 pillars of the Bloom's taxonomy, which have to do with understanding and applying the material. So I always assign something supplemental that forces them to do more understanding and more application. So what I did was I supplemented with a YouTube video, and I will tell you later on as we talk about where I gather some of these free video content that you can use to supplement your online courses and your assignments. By the way, when you find information yourself on YouTube, it makes it a lot harder for the students to cheat by just looking up the answers online because you're finding custom assignments online. So I'll tell you where I go to get that information. So I assigned a supplemental lecture that they needed to watch. So if I needed to, say, add some context to the lecture, I never recorded the lessons again. I just recorded something that was additional to whatever they were learning, always incremental, always adding value. And then I placed that video on YouTube. So they would go and they would watch my YouTube video. And then I would have an additional, like an individual assignment tied to that. So I would make, for example, I did a digital marketing video about what digital marketing is and what it involves, because the one chapter we were reading only touched on that a little bit. So that was my supplemental video. I recorded it on my phone, put it on YouTube, and then linked to it from the LMS. And I wanted them to also actually do an individual assignment tied to that. Then I incorporated some sort of assignment that made them really think deeper and apply the work in a more significant way. So there's always one assignment every week that either falls in the understand and apply category or in the analyze, evaluate, and create category. So I alternate. Every week there's a remember assignment, and then there's an assignment that either falls in the first, in the middle category, or the third one, and I alternate, okay? So with the group or individual work, that's where I would assign the real life YouTube video that I found, that I would find online, that was based on a real company that applied to the lesson we were learning. And that's where I'm going to show you the resource that I use to find a lot of these videos online. And then I would ask them to post a response to whatever question I posed about that particular video. And if it was a group assignment, I would ask them to post as a group. I usually ask them to post a video response as opposed to typing a written response. And you might be wondering, well, how do students do a group video response? Well, they can get together and have a Zoom meeting, a Google Meet meeting, even a YouTube live meeting, and record what it is that they want to say as a response to the question. And I have a template I use to assign each student in the group a specific role in the group and for every assignment, and we switch it up. So based on the assignment, one student is the analyzer, one is the critical thinker, everybody's got a role. And so when they get together on their YouTube session that they assign and they schedule themselves, they record it and then they upload that into the LMS. And then I ask them to comment on another student's or another group's post. And I ask them to offer either a different perspective, a deeper perspective, or a counter perspective. And this is something that I learned from Stacy Smolin, which I thought was awesome. So deeper, different, or counter perspective. If you ask them to do that, then you don't get a lot of the ho-hum responses like, I agree, right? So with this method, everything contained in the LMS, what happens is anytime I need to let them know that there's a new assignment, I'm just emailing them, just like I was always emailing them using just the regular old email, right? I'm not doing anything fancy, just using email to tell them the assignment is available on the LMS. When you go in, you'll see an individual assignment, and then you'll see an assignment, an additional assignment. Complete those and also complete your discussion or what have you. And then in the LMS, I also take the email that I sent them and I put it into the LMS's news or alert section so that the students that miss my email, when they log into the LMS, they're alerted right away that there's a new alert or a new news item from me, so that there's no reason why they should be behind. So when I say simplified tech, let me summarize. So all the tech that I used here was email, the institution's native LMS, the Student course material, YouTube, which is very familiar. And then if there was a group assignment, I asked them to get together and use Zoom, which by now they were all familiar with, or use Google Meet or something of that effect. All right, so here are some tips. If you're ever having to do a video for your students, I just wanted to share with you some tips for when I was anytime I'm creating my supplemental lecture videos. I always only create lecture videos when they are supplements to the course material. Never do I use regurgitated information. I also, if I'm not showing any slides, I just record on my phone and then upload it to my YouTube channel. If I need to show slides, then I'm using Loom or Zoom to record myself so that I can share my slides while I'm moving, while I'm speaking. And here's a pro tip. If you're using Loom or Zoom, they both have annotation features that allow you to circle and highlight and point at things as you're talking, which helps them engage. So make sure you use those tools to your benefit. Record your material in 5 to 7 minute chunks. That's really important so that they stay connected and they stay listening and engaged. And whenever you post videos to YouTube, if you are going to use YouTube, post them as unlisted and then just link to the unlisted video from your LMS. And I love to use YouTube's playlist feature so that I just group all my lectures under one playlist for that one chapter, so that I just create one link in my LMS. Go to the chapter 11 video. Maybe I made 2 lecture videos that week. I want them to see both when they just go there. So they just get dropped into that playlist and they see all the videos that make up that playlist. So hey, that Mary, is how I keep the tech really simple. Just yeah, is it stopped again?
Yes, can you refresh your screen?
Okay, no problem. No problem. Just letting me know if it keeps happening and I'll just keep sharing my screen.
Thank goodness. We have tons of people in here, so.
Thank goodness that I shared the slides. So you all have it handy, hopefully. And if you just joined, you can grab the slides by going to gurubound.com. All right, so here's the next step I wanted to share with you. I talked about engaging with purposeful interactivity, right? So what I mean by this is once I have a real rhythm going with the students, because all my lessons are easily accessible, I'm making things really easy for them to find in the LMS. I'm keeping the tech really low. It's just YouTube and them posting with a video on in the group chats. Everything is really, really seamless. Once I get to that point with my students, then I like to dial it up a little bit. Okay, and in increments. I like to dial it up in increments. So I just want to share with you 2 tools that I discovered. I had not used these tools before we had the pandemic. I had used other tools, but I discovered these 2 tools and they really did make quite a big difference in my courses. And I think I'll continue to use them. Now, some of you may have heard of Nearpod and Flipgrid, but if you haven't, it's okay, because these tools are really heavily used in the K through 12 for K through 12 institutions, but they're not really advertised to us in higher ed. And I don't really know why, but the tools are incredible for even us, for our students, even for my MBA level students, these tools were incredible. So as you can see, what I say here with Nearpod is excellent for packaging a lesson and all of its corresponding assignments into one interactive experience. Whereas Flipgrid is really excellent for having video-based discussions. So with Nearpod, I'm going to start with Nearpod and show you what I did there. With Nearpod, I took remember when I said I'm doing a YouTube lecture and then telling the students to go view that YouTube lecture by linking from my LMS. And then I'm maybe showing them an assignment within the LMS and all these. So everything lives in the LMS, but I wanted to package all of that up in one experience so that they just went to the Nearpod assignment and they could watch the YouTube video and they could do their assignments and everything lived in one experience. So let me show you, I'm going to show you examples of both of these. Let's see if this works. Are you still able to see my screen? Can someone type yes for me? Can you see this, everyone? Bailey, can you?
All that I'm seeing right now is Nearpod and Flipgrid. Are you trying to share a video?
It is just a web page. It's not a video per se.
Interesting. But is it, can you?
Well,
can you share your screen?
If it's not working. I think I'm sharing my screen. Let me try again.
Okay.
Any better? So I think my slide is like delayed by 1, I guess, and I'm not sure why, but in any case,
yes,
why don't I drop the links for you guys? Here's what we're gonna do. I'm going to drop the links for you because it's just as good if you can access these yourself. So here is one link for Nearpod and one link for Flipgrid. Okay. So for those of you who are able to see my links, okay. I see someone says, now it says distributing products. Okay, well, I'm just gonna have you follow along with the links that I just shared, because that first link that I shared that says Nearpod, okay, so that link is, you see me live now, huh? Okay, so what it allows students to do, like I said, is I just package up the whole experience. So whatever I would have said to them in my YouTube video that I created, my YouTube mini lecture, add-on lecture, I still upload to YouTube, but then I tell Nearpod to pull it into this lesson. And then what I do is I add on additional interactive elements to the lesson. For example, what I did with this particular assignment is this was an assignment about distributing products. It was the distribution chapter because this was a principles of marketing course. So we were in that particular step. And they could go there, they could see that I said, okay, well, before you start this assignment, I want you to know, I want you to know that you should have read the chapter and you should have done your chapter quiz already. And then I jump them right into it. And I say, okay, this is a video that supplements what you read and they need to watch it, and Nearpod lets me know if they watched it or not. And then on the next screen, as they go on, they get different activities that they do that relate to that lesson. For example, I asked them to write on the collaborate board 2 key learnings that they learned in that chapter. So they type in a little something, and it shows up on the collaboration board, and other students can see, what Mary wrote, and they can like it and they can comment. And so they're sort of teaching each other. So when I go in and I see that somebody already collaborated with the points I was going to say, maybe it'll force me to go back and look at my materials and maybe choose something else to say instead. So it really builds that engagement. And as they go through, they see other examples of things that they have to do. I love the activity called Draw It because they can circle the right answer or point to the right answer. So it's an interactive experience where they're using their fingers or their mouse as opposed to just selecting a yes or no on a multiple choice answer or question. And then as they go on, I even add other assignments where they can, as they're answering questions, see if they are ahead or behind other students. So they can see other students physically. They can see like cartoon representations of their other students, and they can see who's already ahead of them in terms of who has already answered those same questions correctly, so that they can sort of feel a little peer pressure with answering their questions correctly as well. And that particular activity is called Time to Climb in Nearpod. But it allows them to essentially compete and see who gets on the leaderboard for a set of 3 or 4 questions that I want to ask them. It's multiple choice questions. And as they answer them right or wrong, they can see themselves passing other classmates or lagging behind other classmates. So I loved that I was able to use Nearpod this semester and the students loved it. And then the second link that I shared with you was Flipgrid. Flipgrid is a way for me and the students to engage over video. It's a Microsoft product. It is free. Nearpod is not free. I think it costs like like $10 a month. So it's reasonable. It's $120 a year, I believe. But Flipgrid is completely free. It's a Microsoft product. And like I said, it's for video discussions. So when my students got comfortable, I introduced Flipgrid. And I introduced it on a chapter where we were talking about social media. And I wanted to hear their thoughts on the role that social media companies play in people's mental health and what social media companies should be doing more of or less of to help with that particular issue. So it was a controversial discussion. So I wanted to hear what they had to say, which was perfect for Flipgrid. So in Flipgrid, I just create the assignment and I link to anything I want to link to. Like I wanted to link to some YouTube videos and an article that explained the assignment. And then I do a video and I tell them, here's what I need you to do. So then when they get in, they do their video response to me, and then they can respond to each other. But there are all these interactive tools you can use in there that you don't typically get with your native LMS. And they can comment on each other. They can add imagery and GIFs and just represent their personality. And this built so much community because the group started to talk to each other again. And old pals started to comment on each other's posts like, hey, Chad, haven't seen you in a while. I hope you're doing well. I just wanted to respond to your post. I agree with you or I disagree with you. There was that natural bonding happening again that we were not getting with the LMS native discussion board, even if they were uploading videos. So I loved these two tools. They really made a huge difference in the course for me. And I just want you to be aware of them because they are pretty incredible for driving engagement. So I hope my slides are still working because I'm back now to the slides and I'm looking at the page that says engage with purposeful interactivity. It looks familiar to the screen we looked at before with the LMS box. But what I want to show you here is that I just added these two elements, which were Nearpod and Flipgrid. And then you can see on the right-hand side that I simply said, instead of saying, go to YouTube and do this, and then go to this place and do that, I just said, complete the Nearpod assignment, and I provided a link to that. And then if there was a Flipgrid assignment that week, I said, complete the Flipgrid assignment, and I linked to that. So that's how I was able to still keep it to still keep the tech overwhelm down while still engaging these students. And as it relates to engaging with purposeful interactivity, I told you I was going to share with you some of the resources I use for actual assignment content and course content. So here they are. I think I've got 4 to share with you. The first is StuKent's expert sessions. They are great for getting content that you can apply a case question to or a critical thinking question to. So that's one good place to get ideas for course content. Beyond that, StuKent itself has all these textbooks that come with case studies. So I was able to find case studies that way. The one that I'm really excited about to tell you is because it's the McGraw-Hill Marketing Video Library. And it's because I have found that this resource is ever growing, and it is just, it's YouTube videos. Students cannot cheat with this material. So what McGraw-Hill has done is they've created this eternal library of videos, and you can see the runtime of each video. And then you can see where it says teaching note. I hope you can see my screen. Let me refresh in case you cannot see my screen. Some folks saying we're not seeing your screen. So let's go ahead and share again. Okay, so I hope you can see what I'm sharing here now. If you can, please let me know because I just refreshed. But what I wanted to share with you here is the McGraw-Hill Marketing Video Library. And I've provided a link to it for you, rebrand.ly/mh-videos, right? McGraw-Hill videos. And they provide this list of all these videos you can find on YouTube. And these are sort of current situation or current times information. So it's like a clip from the Today Show or a clip from, what have you, Good Morning America. And then they categorize these topics by a specific marketing topic that you might be teaching about, like the marketing environment or social media marketing or ethics in marketing, what have you. So you can say, I'm on the chapter about distribution, and you can filter to the where it says primary topic, distribution. And you'll see some videos that it has found for you, that it's being McGraw-Hill has found for you. And then, like I said, because these are not out there for students to be using on Quizlet and wherever they go to cheat, it's much harder for them to cheat on these assignments. And I find that this engages them, because this is current events. This allows them to think about what's happening today or what happened last week and apply it to something that they're learning in the classroom. In addition, the other thing is, sometimes I'll go to these links, and by looking at a video that's been provided by this particular resource, I will find additional related videos that actually are even better than what's here. So I can still apply the same teaching questions in the teaching note column to a different video once I'm already on YouTube, which is incredible. So then I take the YouTube clip and I either link to it from my LMS or I add it to my Nearpod experience for my students. Incredible. The other one, which some of you may be familiar with as a resource, is the K. Patricia Cross Academy. If you've never heard of this, it is just a wealth of information. This particular organization gives you information about how to engage your students, and they give you all of the different worksheets that you need to apply what they're telling you to do. So even when I said that with my groups, I have my groups, the students in my groups all have different responsibilities. I got that because of reading some of the material on the K. Patricia Cross Academy website, that you can assign roles to group members. And that's one thing I learned, but there's so many more that I have applied to my classes. So the fact that this resource is available, resources that tell you how to engage your students, and then they give you the worksheets to apply them, no brainer. So check that out, and that'll be incredible. And then the last thing is, I do share information with marketing professors about how to teach effectively online. So just go to gurubound.com, and I've provided a way for you to connect with me. If you want me to share some of my tips, you want me to share anything that I've done, even some of my syllabi, I would be happy to do that. So let's do that, and let's create an even bigger community around each other. The last thing I'll share with you is to be actively present. I cannot stress this enough, that students should not feel like your course is a self-paced, instructor-less experience. And that's something that the head of our Center for Online Learning and Innovation at Canisius said. So students should feel like you're present. And by the way, I just saw the question, the K. Patricia Cross information is available online, and it is free. It is free. So here are the things that I do to stay present to my students: routine polls, kindness polls, and then one-on-one check-ins. So my students hear from me a lot, even when we're online. The routine polls are just me asking the students about 6 weeks into the course, what's working well and what isn't. Really simple. I do it with SurveyMonkey, and I just ask them what they're thinking, and I make their name optional. Then I make adjustments based on what they tell me, and then closer to the end of the semester, I deploy the same survey and ask the same question and see what changed. And then the kindness polls. Now these, every time that we're doing something and I'm introducing something new to the course, I do offer a way to ask my students what they think about it. What I mean by this is, so for example, when the semester changed because of the pandemic, I knew my students' schedules were affected. So I wanted to be kind and understand how they had been affected. So one of the things I asked them was, what is the due date that you're having most of your online courses due, most of your online classes due now? Are most of your assignments due on Fridays, Saturdays, Sundays, Mondays, what? And I found out that by and large, a lot of the assignments were due on Fridays and Mondays, and then there were these like high spikes in the middle of the week. So I knew I could be flexible, and I allowed students to turn in their assignments on Sundays because I knew they would need Saturdays to get a little bit of a breather and then turn their things in on Sundays. And so I let them know the results of the poll, and then I let them know that because of that, I was going to allow them to turn their things in on Sunday nights. And that is a kindness poll. I just check in on them. The same with their finals. When finals week came around, I tried to understand when their finals were due or if they had projects the week before so I could figure out when to make their final due, because it didn't matter to me when I made their assignment due. So those kindness polls go a long way. So do the one-on-one check-ins. I make a list of all my students and I try to send one personal email to one student one time every semester. Just, hey, just want to check in on you. How are you doing? So I advise you to make a list of all your students and just go down the list, maybe 5 or 10 a week. just to make sure you touch every student. And it just helps to build that relationship. Virtual hours are critical when you're teaching online. I love using Meeting Bird for this. I tried Calendly and it didn't work out as well as I had hoped. So I use Meeting Bird and it looks at all my other calendars because I have a lot of other things I'm doing with my business and my consulting and my teaching. So Meeting Bird allows students to only book times that I want them to book and only times that I'm available. And it's awesome because it syncs with Zoom. So they book the meeting, there's a Zoom meeting created right away, and we meet at the time and have our conversation. And I encourage them to book me for real face-to-face meetings all the time. The next thing is show, don't tell. So anytime a student is having trouble, as opposed to typing out what they're missing and what they're not doing right, I just, I make a little video on Loom for them and I show them what I'm doing. That's another way to show that you are engaged and to help students to actually capture and master the material as opposed to just reading your explanation of whatever it is that they should be doing. It's a lot easier for you and a lot easier for them as well when you use a video tool like Loom to explain what they're struggling with. And then lastly, is that if you do plan to have a hybrid course and you are gonna have synchronous times with your students, I highly advise that you use a tool like Zoom or Google Meet. You cannot use Loom for hybrid, for synchronous lessons. It's only an asynchronous tool, so you can never have groups together. But Zoom is great for that, and so is Google Meet. And if you haven't tried it, or if you have trouble with these other two tools, YouTube Live is another tool that a lot of people don't really know about. But you can have live webinars on YouTube for free. You just set them up you just schedule your YouTube video for a certain time and you invite people to join at that time, and there you've got a live synchronous class just like that. So that's another tool that you can put in your cap for when you need it. So I'll wrap with this. How do you transition an in-person class into an engaging, interactive online experience like my students had? You just employ those 4 key tenets that I mentioned of committing to a mastery mindset, simplifying the tech, engaging with purposeful interactivity, right? Only introduce new tech when you have perfected the simplified tech first, and then be actively present. And always have this mindset that's down below, that your online class is not an in-person version, or your online class is not your in-person. Now, this is my big finale and I'm messing it up. Let's try again. So your online course is not your in-person course repackaged for online consumption. That is the key that you have to keep in mind at all times. So with that, I just want to thank you for your time, and I hope that you got a lot of information out of this. Again, if you want the slides, just go to gurubound.com or email me down below. You see my email address, and I will shoot it over to you.
All right, thank you so much, Mary. That was awesome. Okay, so we do have a few questions that came in on the chat that we want to ask. And if any other teachers in the chat have any ideas, please feel free to chat in. So one question was asked, did anyone find some things online that you actually enjoyed and want to keep as part of a face-to-face class?
Say that again, I'm sorry, Bailey.
Did anyone find some things online that you actually enjoyed and want to keep as part of a face-to-face class?
Anyone, meaning did any of the students find something online maybe?
You or anyone in the chat.
So is that a question for me or for the people in the chat, Bailey?
It's more of like just a general question of people in the chat and for you.
Oh, I see. Well, I found a whole lot of stuff, and I think I shared all of them with you all. I hope that what I shared with you is going to be helpful. I cannot tell you enough about the wealth of information you can gather on YouTube. You can literally ask the same questions over and over every semester. Just find a different video that represents that idea, and that'll keep your students finding the easy way out. It'll keep that ratio down. I do have to tell you, here's something I tried this year. Because it's the marketing 201 course, of course, I wanted them to package everything up and make a marketing plan at the end of the semester. So what I did was I had them create their marketing plan, by answering some specific questions. I used something from the textbook. There was a marketing plan template in the textbook, but I stripped it down a little bit. And rather than having the students take the case that was presented in the textbook and say, you know, how do you create a marketing case for company X that was in the textbook? I had them choose from a list of the 50 companies that have recently gone bankrupt. I said, pick any company you want. You can pick Circuit City, you can pick JCPenney, you can pick whoever. So I made it so that even though they were still doing a marketing plan, they had to use new material for it. So it reduced, you know, their appetite for finding the information online themselves. And it also committed them to something that felt personal. So I had them create the marketing plan, and then I had them go into Flipgrid and do a presentation to me as their CEO. They are the CMO, the Chief Marketing Officer. And I said, how would you, knowing everything that you learned in this semester, pitch me on how you would have kept this company from going bankrupt using the 7 Ps of marketing? What would you have done differently with the product? What would you have done differently with the price, et cetera? So they made the pitch on Flipgrid after completing the actual assignment and turning it in the LMS. And that assignment was so well received by the students, and they loved that it brought everything in the semester together. I know that was not the question, but that is something that I did want to share because it made a big difference that they could choose a real company that they felt connected to. And it gave me the peace of mind that they were not borrowing from content that was already online.
Yeah, I love that, Mary. That's an awesome answer. Okay, so our next question. For any sort of report, how are you not pulling them in the weight?
You cut out, Bailey. Say that again, please.
Sorry about that. For any sort of report, how are you handling students not pulling their weight?
Oh, well, so by assigning them roles, that's one big thing. So if one student is responsible for summarizing the material in the assignment, and another one is responsible for being the protagonist, and the other one is the antagonist, like you can't hide as much if you have a specific role. So that's my first tip, is to use to actually assign roles to each student, and you can change it. You know, they don't have to keep the same role every assignment. But you can change it. And if you want ideas about the roles to assign students, the K Patricia Cross Academy link that I provided will be so helpful for you to define some roles for your groups. And then I do allow students to anonymously grade each other. You know, I have a very open policy on that. You know, there's a perpetual form that I link to on in the LMS, and it's a form where you can go to just say, you know, my group member is not doing XYZ. So I'm not putting it out every time. I'm just saying, here's a link. If you ever want to say something to me about how your group is doing, just fill this out and add your name so that I know that something is going on, and it'll just be between the two of us. So I allow them to do that either by filling out a survey or just by emailing me directly with what's going on. So I make an open policy at the beginning of the semester that this is not allowed and it's not permitted. And this is how students can share with me how things are going in their group.
Awesome. Okay, and then last question. So do students have to pay to use Nearpod?
No, students do not pay to use Nearpod. All these tools are free to the students, which is great. And a lot of them are even free to us in academia, including like Loom, which we talked about. You know, it's free for us in academia. And Nearpod is not free, but it is reasonable. At $10 a month is very reasonable. So hopefully your department wouldn't mind, if you loved it, wouldn't mind absorbing that cost.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Mary. Just one last thing for everybody on the chat. Congratulations to Joyce Hicks. You have been selected as the most active person in the chat, so we'll be sending you a $5 gift card. Anyone else in any of your other breakout sessions, be sure to be extremely active in the chats because there could possibly be a $5 gift card coming your way. So that is it for this breakout session, and jump on to your next one here in just a few minutes.
Thanks, everybody.